What happens when legendary rock songs come with a price tag and a lawsuit? Some of the most notable tracks in rock history weren't just born in smoky studios or on the back of a napkin. They were dragged into courtrooms, accused of stealing riffs, lyrics, or melodies from artists who came first. Sometimes it's a subtle inspiration, and other times it's blatant plagiarism. Either way, these musical battles have cost millions, broken friendships, and rewritten the credits on more than a few vinyl sleeves. In this second episode, let's dive into 10 more unforgettable songwriting thefts that's ever rocked the music industry. Number 1. Led Zeppelin versus Willie Dixon. Whole Lotta Love controversy. When Led Zeppelin dropped Whole Lotta Love in 1969, it hit like a thunderclap. Heavy, raw, and unforgettable. But blues legend Willie Dixon heard something all too familiar. He recognized his own words, originally penned for Muddy Waters' You Need Love.
Be way down inside, woman, you need love. Way down inside, honey, you need it.
Tucked right into Robert Plant's sensual growls. Dixon didn't let it slide. In 1985, he sued Zeppelin for stealing lyrics he had written over 2 decades earlier. Rather than fight in court, the band settled, and Dixon got official songwriting credit. The case pulled back the curtain on how often rock borrowed from the blues, and how rarely credit was given, until someone spoke up.
Oh, you ain't getting, baby, way down inside.
Number 2. Men at Work versus Lyric and Music. Down Under versus Kookaburra. Men at Work's Down Under is an anthem of Aussie pride. Playful lyrics, catchy rhythm, and that unmistakable flute riff. But hidden inside that flute was a ticking time bomb, because in 2009, Lyric and Music, who owned the rights to the 1934 children's song Kookaburra, noticed that the iconic flute melody was more than just inspired, it was lifted.
Kookaburra sits in the old gum tree, Mary, Mary, king of the bush is he.
The lawsuit hit nearly 3 decades after the song's release, catching the band off guard. A judge ruled that Kookaburra had indeed been copied, awarding Lyrican 5% of Down Under's royalties backdated to 2002. The verdict shocked fans and made a lot more wonder how far back inspiration can reach, and when a children's tune becomes grounds for millions in court. Number 3. The Offspring versus Agent Orange. When Come Out and Play almost got bloodstains.
You gotta keep them separated.
In 1994, The Offspring lit up alt-rock radio with Come Out and Play, but their fiery anthem soon attracted controversy from an unexpected source, Posh Boy Records. Robbie Fields, who managed early punk act Agent Orange, heard a guitar riff that rang a little too familiar. It echoed the main line from Agent Orange's 1979 track Bloodstains, a surf punk classic. Though Fields never took it to court, he did ask for a licensing fee, citing the striking similarity. The Offspring never admitted to lifting the riff, and no formal lawsuit followed, but the moment exposed how punk's raw, underground sound was being polished and possibly poached by the mainstream. Number 4. Rod Stewart versus Georgie Benjour. Do You Think I'm Sexy versus Taj Mahal.
Rod Stewart!
When Rod Stewart swaggered onto the disco scene with Do You Think I'm Sexy, fans were divided. Was it bold reinvention or just cheesy radio bait? Either way, it worked. The 1978 hit topped charts worldwide. But in Brazil, singer Jorge Benjor was hearing something suspicious. Stewart's chorus bore a strong resemblance to Benjor's 1972 song Taj Mahal. Stewart later admitted that he might have unconsciously borrowed the melody after hearing it at a festival. Rather than drag it out in court, the two artists reached a friendly settlement, and Stewart even donated the song's royalties to UNICEF. It's a rare case where an accusation of theft ended with a handshake and a check for charity. Number 5. Oasis versus the New Seekers. Shakemakers shaking things up in court. When Oasis dropped Shakemaker in 1994, it had all the hallmarks of Britpop swagger. However, listeners couldn't help but notice that the melody echoed a global jingle, I'd Like to Teach the World to Sing by the New Seekers. That song, originally crafted for a Coca-Cola ad, was sweet and innocent. Oasis twisted it into a slacker anthem. The New Seekers weren't amused. They sued Oasis, claiming the similarity was too blatant to ignore. However, the case didn't drag on, as Oasis settled for £300,000 and moved on, wiser and a bit lighter in the wallet. Even rock stars can't just rewrite a tune everyone's humming. Number 6. Vanilla Ice versus Queen and David Bowie, when Ice Ice Baby is under pressure.
Yo, VIP!
In 1990, Ice Ice Baby blasted through radio speakers with a bass line that sounded instantly iconic, and for good reason. It was nearly identical to Queen and David Bowie's Under Pressure. Vanilla Ice, then a fresh face in hip-hop, claimed the riff had a slight variation. Most would have thought it sounded similar to Westlife's Bop Bop Baby due to the use of a prominent bass line in both songs. But that argument doesn't hold water, so let's move forward.
Quick and nimble. I go crazy when I hear a cymbal and a hi-hat.
Queen and Bowie took legal action, and rather than fight it, Vanilla Ice settled the case privately. The terms were never made public, but songwriting credits were updated, and money undoubtedly changed hands. For many, it became the poster child for how a few lifted notes can turn a chart topper into a courtroom confession. Number 7. Led Zeppelin versus Jake Holmes, Dazed and Confused. Long before Dazed and Confused became a staple of Zeppelin's live shows, it belonged to a lesser-known name, Jake Holmes. The folk singer released the song in 1967, full of haunting vibes and slinky bass lines. Jimmy Page, then with the Yardbirds, saw Holmes perform and later took the tune into Zeppelin territory, amped up, distorted, and renamed.
I'm dazed and confused, hanging on by a thread. Been dazed and confused for so long, it's not true.
But Page never gave Holmes credit. For decades, Holmes stayed quiet. Until 2010. That year, he filed a lawsuit accusing Page of copyright infringement. 2 years later, the case was quietly settled out of court.
The Jimmy Page version is inspired by me, but there's still my version. It's not inspired by nobody. I'm not inspired by Jimmy Page.
Though Holmes didn't get a public trial, the world finally saw the full story. Zeppelin had borrowed more than just blues. They blurred the lines between inspiration and imitation.
I don't know where you're going, I don't know just where you've been.
Number 8. De La Soul versus the Turtles, when transmitting live from Mars hits differently.
C'est l'heure de déjeuner.
Qu'est-ce qu'il y a à manger?
Des saucisses.
In the early days of hip-hop, sampling was wild and unregulated, a musical free-for-all. De La Soul, pioneers of the genre, created Transmitting Live from Mars using snippets of various sounds, including a dreamy harmony from the Turtles' 1969 song, You Showed Me.
You showed me how to do exactly what you do.
Midi.
Quelle heure est-il?
Il est midi.
C'est l'heure de déjeuner.
Qu'est-ce qu'il
The problem was, they never asked permission. The Turtles weren't flattered. They sued, and the case didn't go cheap. When De La Soul eventually settled for a reported $1.7 million, it sent shockwaves through the hip-hop and rock worlds, establishing new rules for how and when sampling could legally be done.
Oh, it's true.
Qu'est-ce qu'il y a à manger? Qu'est-ce qu'il y a?
That short sample turned into a massive warning sign for artists everywhere.
Now you love me.
Number 9, John Denver versus New Order. Leaving on a Jet Plane versus Run 2.
But the dawn is breaking, it's early morn. The taxi's waiting, he's blown his horn.
In 1989, British band New Order released a track called Run 2, a synth-heavy rock-pop hybrid. But one part of the song caught the attention of a very unexpected artist, John Denver. He believed the melody in Run 2 copied his 1982 track, Leaving on a Jet Plane, specifically the vocal phrasing and progression.
But I know that I'm okay, 'cause you're here with me.
Leaving on a jet plane, don't know.
A lawsuit was filed by Cherry Hill Music, John Denver's publishing company, against Universal Music. And while the case didn't make major headlines at the time, it ended in his favor. As a result, Run 2 was pulled from further release, and Denver was awarded a co-writing credit.
So what's the use in complaining when you've got everything?
It was a strange crossover, one of folk country's biggest names taking on one of Britain's iconic post-punk bands. Number 10, Ed Sheeran versus Marvin Gaye's Estate, a thinking out loud that got it on.
No man still remember the taste of my love. And will your eyes still smile?
When Ed Sheeran crooned Thinking Out Loud, it felt timeless, a modern love song with an old-school groove. But that groove hit a little too close to home for the estate of Ed Townsend, co-writer of Marvin Gaye's Let's Get It On.
Giving yourself to me can never be wrong.
Out loud, maybe we found love.
In 2018, they filed a massive $100 million lawsuit, arguing that Sheeran had copied the chord progression and feel of the soul classic. Sheeran defended the song in court, even picking up a guitar to show the difference, just like John Fogerty did decades earlier.
Kiss me under the light of 1,000 stars. Nothing wrong with me loving you.
After a high-profile trial in 2023, the jury sided with Sheeran, stating the similarities weren't enough to prove theft. Still, it was a landmark case in music copyright that struck a balance between inspiration, artistry, and ownership in front of the whole world.
What I've been dreaming of.
From intentional plagiarism to honest mistakes, rock music's biggest copyright lawsuits have continually changed how the industry works. So which case was the most controversial for you? Would you let us know in the comments? Kindly like and subscribe if you found this deep dive interesting.